possible as you can for him, and trusting I got my teammates behind me.
That's the Bucks' Brooke Lopez. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Increasing clouds tonight, a low close to 30 and becoming breezy. Wind advisory for tomorrow, gusts higher than 40 miles an hour at times, maybe a rain or snow shower, highs upper 40s. Cooler weekend, mid-20s Saturday, mid-30s Sunday. It's 39 right now.
As a federally licensed broadcast company, this Civic Media station is required by FCC regulations to accept advertising by all qualified candidates for federal office. We also accept ads from state and local candidates. We do screen announcements from issue groups and PACs and exercise discretion in airing announcements with blatantly false claims or outrageous, unfounded statements. These announcements do not necessarily reflect the views of Civic Media, its hosts, or advertisers, and the source of all issue announcements can be found online at our FCC public file.
Hey, it's Amanda, and we all know that Northeast Wisconsin has some of the best events around, but trying to find them all can be tricky. So here at WGBW, we decided to do the work for you. Prevent boredom on any night by going to WGBW.fm and click events in the top right corner. You'll never have to spend forever scrolling to find out what's going on in your area. And if you got an event to share, hit us up by emailing info@WGBW.fm. We can work together to have real news and great conversation while giving you the 411 on what's happening in New Wisco.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, Jane is out, but I, Greg Bach, am your guest host for the day, and we have political editor Dan Schaefer recombobulating the news, and this shouldn't be a thing.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who prefers to travel by catapult, Pete Schwaba.
Oh, such a somber day, but we are going to try to... We're going to try to make people happy anyway, despite the death of a Hollywood legend and an entertainment business titan, Gene Hackman. Hackman passed away yesterday. Is today Thursday? Yeah, yesterday at the age of 95. They found Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy, and their dog all had passed away, and they had been dead for a while, and they're thinking, at least the most recent news I heard was that it was a carbon monoxide issue. So what a weird way to go. You make it to 95 years old, and then that's how you die. Shocking, and it's sad because of that. And he's contributed so much to the world in his 95 years. So we'll talk about Gene Hackman a little bit. Lots to get to. A really fun show, despite how I opened it there, Conrad. You look sad. Did I make you sad?
Yeah, you made me a little sad.
Sorry, man. Sometimes you just gotta man up, like a Gene Hackman character. Really fun show tonight, folks. Glad you're here, wherever you're joining us from in the great state of Wisconsin. Welcome to Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba. I am Pete Schwaba. Riding shotgun, as always, is the lovable producer Conrad, and we have got. I'm very excited about our guest tonight. It's Thursday, which means we're doing our popcorn pick of the week. Tonight, to make said pick, is a guy I've wanted to have on the show for quite a while, and I've had him on before, but I've wanted to get him back here because he's just so much fun to talk to. Writer Rich Tallarico, writer-performer, I should say. Rich is also, he's got a phenomenal writing resume, Mad TV, Saturday Night Live. Key and Peele is where he is, I think he probably did his most recognized work. He wrote the Substitute Teacher sketch, the Black Ice sketch, which is very funny. He wrote a sketch about President Obama meeting dignitaries that is legendary. And Rich will be here at 6:35 to make the popcorn pick of the week. Then we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that he's got going on. Very exciting stuff, too. And he's always fun to talk to, so you won't want to miss that. At 7:35, Rob Thomas, who you might remember from last night's show, joins Nite Lite to discuss Gene Hackman's legacy. So Rob was nice enough to come back on the show, and we'll have a little discussion about Gene Hackman and rank our favorite Gene Hackman films. So that will be fun. We've got a lot to get to. There's a lot going on in the world. There's new films opening this week. I almost don't know where to start, but let's start with our question of the night, shall we?
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question. Question.
Pregunta.
Question.
Question.
Hey, I have a question. Questions?
This question.
Domanda. Question.
Question.
Questions.
What is your favorite Gene Hackman film? You can't really put a question out there like this for most actors because they don't have the body of work he does. But Gene Hackman, The Poseidon Adventure, Bonnie and Clyde, The Conversation, Mississippi Burning, The French Connection, Hoosiers, Enemy of the State, The Royal Tenenbaums, The Quick and the Dead. The guy has got a resume that is just, I don't want to say unparalleled, but pretty close. Like he's won 2 Oscars. He won for Unforgiven in a supporting role, and he won for The French Connection, his portrayal of Popeye Doyle, the no-nonsense cop, which that phrase was probably coined because of his role in The French Connection. So Gene Hackman, what is your favorite Gene Hackman film? Very simple question tonight, folks, and there's so many to choose from. You can reach us at 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Text us on the app if that's easier. There's a little icon right next to whatever station you're listening to Nightlight on. You can just click the text icon and fire away and let us know. Also, let people know if they're watching on the stream, Conrad. How can they do that, and how can they reach us?
Yeah, so if you want to join us on Facebook, it's WISS, WGBW, or Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. On YouTube, it's Civic Media or WGBW, or Twitter or X, WGBW or Civic Media.
Find us any way you can. Just find us. I would love to read what your favorite Gene Hackman film was. He is an absolute legend. Been retired since 2004. His last film was Welcome to Mooseport, and his doctor apparently told him his heart couldn't handle the stress. So let's see. He died when he was 95. That was about 75. He was probably 75 when he retired. Still a great run. 4 decades of movie making, theater. He was a Marine. I think he was in the Marines for 5 years. Got out, wanted to learn how to act. Met Dustin Hoffman, and the two became friends. And then they became friends with Robert Duvall, all young actors in New York City, as well as in Pasadena, California. They got training at the Pasadena Playhouse. Just a great story. His second wife, Betsy, who they found in the same house. That was interesting, too. None of them, the dog, Gene, or his wife, Betsy, were in the same room. Like, it just kind of came over them. It sure seems like it was like a carbon monoxide situation, but we'll have to wait for the official results. But she was a classically trained pianist, too. So a lot of talent in that house, and it's too bad. But let us know your favorite. Let's celebrate him tonight. Let's celebrate Gene Hackman. What is your favorite Gene Hackman movie? That is our question of the night. Great to have you with me. Rich Tallarico here at 6:35. Rob Thomas drops by again to talk Gene Hackman at 7:35. I wanted to get to this, too, because every once in a while, I kind of forget about this. Do you know when we're on overnight, Conrad? I know they play the replay. Is it at 4 to 6, 4 a.m. to 6?
Yep.
Okay. So we got a text like in the middle of the night. I know some people listen then if they get up earlier, if they're driving a truck or whatever. But Bud from Janesville, he's in the 608. He says, "Hey, Pete and Conrad, hands down, it's trimming my nails." He says, see what I did there? Our question last night was what bodily grooming function do you least like to do? And that was a fun question, too. And Bud says, trimming his nails. Thank you for listening at ungodly hours, Bud. I hope we make your morning a little more fun. And I saw this today. This cracked me up. I joined Blue Sky about a month ago, maybe a little longer. And I'm kind of seeing different people in the community. And there's this girl, Mariana 057, Mariana Z. I don't know her, but this cracked me up. This was something she put out on Blue Sky. It says, if you watch Jaws backwards, it is a heartwarming story about a shark giving out limbs to the disabled. Oh, that was great.
You could say that about like any horror film.
I suppose
too.
so. Yeah.
Like a Saw. He's rewarding them.
He's putting the parts back on.
Yeah.
It's very, it is. It's heartwarming. That's great. Thank you, Mariana Z. Thank you, random Blue Sky user who I don't know, but who I'm glad I discovered because she had a lot of funny stuff. We have already got some text rolling in. This is great. Okay, so Gene Hackman what is your favorite Gene Hackman movie? Is our role or movie, whatever you want to say is fine. Bill from Green Bay says, such a movie legend and so many great roles. One that comes to mind is Mississippi Burning. Bill, that is my favorite. And part of it is because I like the character so much. But I agree with you. That might be my favorite role Gene Hackman was in. And he wasn't really necessarily, he was kind of the lead, but Willem Dafoe played the younger, clean-cut FBI agent who was more by the book. I loved the dynamic between Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe. Just two great roles, and the Gene Hackman role he was like an old school Southerner who was a FBI agent who did things a little old school, not necessarily by the book, but also got results. That was a great movie. Anna from Madison, that's the 608. She says, hi, Pete and Conrad. My favorite Gene Hackman movie was Bonnie and Clyde. He received his first Oscar nomination for supporting actor for that movie. He sure did, Anna. That was a great role as well. That's up there on my list as well. He played opposite Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, and the girl that played his love interest is escaping me, but I will figure that out. But a great film, and kind of inspired a lot of other robbery movies and about gangsters and stuff like that too. So that's a great choice. Thank you for the text. Brian in Milwaukee says Birdcage and both of the French Connections. That's interesting because I know French Connection was fairly well received. It wasn't like some of these sequels from legendary films that don't add up. I know a lot of people that liked the French Connection too. I think I saw it, but I just don't remember it. And the Birdcage I saw years ago, and I feel like all I remember from that movie is Robin Williams. That's how overpowering Robin Williams can be. He can upstage Gene Hackman. And Nathan Lane's hilarious too, but I should give Birdcage a rewatch. Jim from Appleton says, my favorite Gene Hackman film, Young Frankenstein. God, again, I saw that movie probably 35 years ago. I need to rewatch it because I've seen online a few people posting about how funny Gene Hackman was in Young Frankenstein as well. So keep those texts coming, folks. These are great. What is your favorite Gene Hackman movie? We are trying to honor the late, great Gene Hackman with this question of the night. Rich Tallarico is here. He's a Key and Peele writer at 635. Didn't Rich tell us last time, Conrad, that his substitute teacher sketch was in the Smithsonian, I think.
Yeah.
They took that because it was so funny, and I don't know, I guess they wanted to immortalize it, and it's great. So Rich is a great Second City trained comedian and actor. He'll be here at 6:35. Rob Thomas drops by at 7:35 to talk about Gene Hackman. And, so much was going on last night. I never got to talk about the show A Grandpa in My Pocket, which is so weird. And I thought it was really weird because the picture, it looked like he was in like the kid's pants pocket, which is beyond creepy, but it was like a breast pocket type thing. And the kid could consult his grandpa if he needed him. It was such a bizarre show from the UK, and I thought I even had a clip, but I just kind of got lost. All right, maybe I never sent it to you. Did I send you a Grandpa in the Pocket clip?
I don't remember something like that.
And you would?
I think I would have, yeah.
All right, so we've got a lot going on. Great to have you guys part of the show. I read a couple texts from the overnight broadcast. If you listen overnights, that's fantastic too. Whenever you listen, it's great to have you. Give us a like or a follow if you're on Facebook or Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever. We need to talk about Reacher. We're going to hear a little bit about, we're going to play a scene that our guest Rich Tallarico was in from the movie High Fidelity with Jack Black. That's all coming up next on Night Light with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for the Todd Allball Show.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596. Or visit www.kwwf.org.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Wisconsin's next major election is already here. The race for state Supreme Court is ramping up with just a few weeks to go before the April 1st general election. Much like the race 2 years ago, this will determine the balance of power on the court. If Susan Crawford wins, the court remains in liberal control. If Brad Schimmel wins, the court flips back to a right-wing majority. But there are a number of differing dynamics from the race in 2023. That race, won by Janet Protasewicz, was the culmination of a years-long effort for liberals to win control of the court. Now they're playing defense to keep that majority. This also begins a run of 6 years in a row with a race for Wisconsin Supreme Court on the spring election ballot. Because of which justices will be up in coming years, if Crawford wins this year, the court will likely remain in liberal control until at least 2028. Find more bigger picture.
Get up home. I wanna drive them home. When you're feeling blue, I'm thinking just of you.
Jim from Appleton giving me some clarification on Gene Hackman's role in Young Frankenstein. He says he was the blind guy who befriended the monster because he was lonely. That's right. I gotta watch that again. Thanks, Jim. Anna from Madison says Pete Estelle Parsons, yes, played Gene Hackman's wife in Bonnie and Clyde. She won a Best Supporting Actress for her role. Thank you for the assist, Anna. I was completely blanking, and it might have taken me a while to figure that out, but a great text. Thanks. Tyler from Wisconsin Rapids says, despite Gene Hackman's mean disposition in the movie Unforgiven, he was one hell of a carpenter. I'm sure that's an inside joke about Unforgiven, but it's been so long since I've seen that too. Please, Tyler, explain if you would. He played a great mean guy. In The Quick and the Dead, he was fantastic. He played Leonardo DiCaprio's father, and they have a gun battle in this little town. I've seen that movie. Maybe I've seen that twice, but it's been years. Sharon Stone plays one of the other gunfighters, and nobody can beat Gene Hackman. And it's such a great movie. Sam Raimi directed it. And I'll just say this, Gene Hackman ends up facing off his own son, Leonardo DiCaprio, in a draw. And it's great, and it's shot well, and it's a really fun movie. But Gene Hackman played a really good mean guy. Bridget from the 818 says, Hoosiers, one of the best movies ever made. Drama, great acting, excitement, the best. Hard to disagree with that. Would you agree with that, Conrad?
I've seen that movie so many times, and it's just a great story, you know?
Yeah. One of those movies, too, that has it's got the underdog thing, which is great, but the music is phenomenal.
Yeah.
The acting, even the kids, like the basketball players, you got Dennis Hopper, Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey. Really good movie.
It's like, I believe that's one of the movies that I saw, and it's like, I want to play basketball.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's how it is when you're a kid. When you see a movie like that, it's like, if you see Rocky, I'm going to start boxing. You see Hoosiers, I got to play some hoops. Stacy Sue checks in on the stream. Willy Wonka.
I think she...
Wow. No, I don't think that's right.
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder. That's okay, Stacy Sue. Willy Wonka was a fine movie, and Gene Wilder was born in Milwaukee. So we welcome the contribution. Thank you very much, Stacy Sue. I went home last night. I have 2 films to see before the Oscars. I have to see The Brutalist, and I Am Here. I'm looking forward to seeing The Brutalist, but obviously I'm going to have to carve out time. That's almost 4 hours. So I'll probably watch it incrementally between now and Sunday. And last year, it came down to the wire, too. I saw, was it Stranger Things? No, that's the TV show. What was the show? What was the movie? I got to look that up. But I saw that film was the last one I had to see before the Oscars, and I saw it. I think they released it on streaming just that morning. It was the film with Willem Dafoe and Emma Stone. So it's probably going to happen this year too. I still have to see The Brutalist, and I'm still here because I saw Nickel Boys last night, and I will say, just a gut-wrenching movie. Loved the story, and there was some really clever stuff. But it was shot weird. They used like this first person where the actors look right at the camera, and that, I have to say, that kind of took me out of it at times. But really an incredible story and a good movie. I totally see it was like made for an Oscar nomination, but the director took some chances, and it was definitely interesting. I don't know that I liked all of them, but what do I know? I did really enjoy the story, and it was heart-wrenching, very hard to watch at times. Not that it was violent, but the way these kids were treated at this reform school in Florida, the Nickel Academy or whatever it was called, thus the title The Nickel Boys, was based on a true story. Just crazy stuff. How many of the films have you seen, Conrad?
Honora.
That's it.
That's
okay.
I can't think of any other. I really want to see Dune 2, but it's the part of me that's like, I don't know if I want to sit down for 3 hours.
It's a long one too. Yeah, it is entertaining. I will say that you'll be entertained. Poor Things. That's the one I was trying to think of.
I tried watching Wicked, and I don't know. It's just not my forte in movies.
Yeah.
It's just, we got a comment on the stream that's about Gene, the movie The Replacements.
Where is that? Is that on the stream? Or
yeah. Brian said, let's not forget about The Replacements.
Oh, The Replacements, yeah.
That
Brian
movie
Cashin.
is
Hey, Brian.
so funny. That movie is
I don't think
hilarious.
I've ever seen that. Okay. I'll add that to the list.
It is.
Was that the Keanu Reeves?
Yes.
Yeah, they're like strike players or something like that.
It's about football.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Nice.
That is one of my favorite comedy sports movies.
All right, so you've seen more than one Gene Hackman movie.
And I've seen Superman. I forgot he played Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor, that's right. Jim from Brookfield says, "Hi, Pete. My favorite Gene Hackman movie was Gypsy." I think he means moths, right? Let's Google. Moths or months? I don't remember. For some reason, Gypsy Moths. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, it was just a typo. But Jim from Brookfield says, "Hi, Pete. My favorite Gene Hackman movie was Gypsy Moths. You could almost feel Hackman pull his tie off as he tells Burt Lancaster to pull his parachute." Jim from Brookfield. Thank you, Jim. That's a great one. I love when we get the offbeat ones because I'm expecting a lot of the famous Gene Hackman films. But the offbeat ones are great too, like The Replacements and Gypsy Moths. Do we have time to tease Rich's appearance with that
Yeah, we could do the high fidelity
All
clip.
right, this is our next guest. He's coming up after the news. A great sketch writer and writer in general, Rich Tallarico. He was an actor in the film High Fidelity, and we found this scene that he did with Jack Black years ago.
Especially on CD, yet another cruel trick played on all the who got rid of their turntables. But every other Echo and the Bunnymen album... Yeah, I have all the other ones. Oh, you do? Well, how about the Jesus and Mary chain? Yeah, they always seem... They always seemed what? They always seemed really great is what they always seemed. They picked up where your precious Echo left off, and you're sitting around complaining about no more Echo albums. I can't believe you don't own this record. That's insane. Jesus. You don't have it? That is perverse. Don't tell anybody you don't own Blonde on Blonde. It's gonna be okay.
I think the thing I miss the most about record stores are snooty record store employees that think they know everything about music. Brilliant. All right, Rob Thomas is here at 7:35. The great Madison film critic will be discussing the legacy of Gene Hackman coming up after the news. He's a fantastic writer, folks. Rich Talarico joins us. He's written on Key and Peele, SNL, Mad TV, you name it, he's done it. He's here. Always fun to talk to Rich. That's coming up after the news. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Matinee on Air.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Even school children can affect change. Crosswalks are essential for any pedestrian crossing, but especially near schools where children are biking and walking. The city of Green Bay recently installed flashing beacons at 48 crosswalks throughout the city. One was supposed to be at the corner of Eliza and Webster Street. However, a group of students at Aldo Leopold conducted their own research and presented their findings to the city. Students mostly used an intersection a block to the south of there. Due to their efforts, Public Works Director Steve Grenier and the city changed the location of the flashing beacon to Emily and South Webster Streets. More crosswalk improvements are planned this summer to include driver feedback signs. The Dean of Students at Vel Phillips Middle School in Oshkosh is on administrative leave pending an investigation into an incident where a 13-year-old student was handcuffed and pinned under a school resource officer. The Oshkosh Northwestern is reporting that Christopher Willems pushed the student against a wall before the officer guided the child to the ground and applied handcuffs and used a knee to pin him down. The incident on January 10th started when the student would not hand over his cell phone. The school district would not comment on an ongoing district investigation. The 110th Green Bay Art Colony exhibition features over 41 pieces from 23 local women artists, says Neville Public Museum Executive Director Beth Kowalski.
Multimedia, it's photography, it's oils, it's acrylics, it's sculpture. I think there's even a fiber piece in there. So it's one of those things where it's multi-pieces, multiple perspectives, but they're all local women.
The Green Bay Art Colony was formed in 1915 to inspire each other as artists, educate the public, encourage new artists, and give scholarships to art students. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. John Hughes was the king of teenage comedies, pretty much up until his sudden death in 2009. At a recent event in Hollywood, producer Adam Fields says Hughes sent him the initial script for The Breakfast Club as a play that was all set in one classroom. When asked about a potential remake, Fields said he did not think the film could be remade because it is character-driven, whereas everything these days is mostly concept-driven. The Breakfast Club recently celebrated the 40th year since its release. The cast of the Oscar-nominated film Conclave, a film about selecting the new pope after the death of a pope, has a lot on their mind, like a potential Best Picture win at the Oscars this coming weekend after winning the Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture last Sunday at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Members of the cast wished real-life Pope Francis well, as he has been hospitalized with health issues at 88 years old. Isabella Rossellini said, "We love this pope and are worried for him. Life imitating art or art imitating life." For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Increasing clouds tonight, a low close to 30 and becoming breezy. Wind advisory for tomorrow, gusts higher than 40 miles an hour at times, maybe a rain or snow shower, highs upper 40s. Cooler weekend, mid-20s Saturday, mid-30s Sunday.
Hey, Rich, can you hear me?
Hello, hello.
Just wanted to check your audio quick.
Yes, thank you kindly. Is this Conrad?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, this sounds great. Thanks for checking.
My pleasure. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, we'll be back in about a minute.
Copy that. I'll clear my throat.
Department of Health Services.
The Dom Salvia Show.
You know, Harvey, the seemingly purposeful no action. What's your sense on the leadership in the Dem Party right now, Harvey?
I'm ashamed of them. What did Trump have on all these people?
Yeah, right.
That we get this kind of silence. Will the Democratic leadership figure out that it's their task to start articulating a democratic, small d, democratic vision and project that these people can rally behind? Bam.
The Dom Salvia Show. Weekdays from 4 till 6 on the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app. Todd Albaugh.
Hey, everybody, join us next time for a TGIF edition.
Poseidon Adventure. He sure was. That's on my list. I think that tied for 5th, just because I was so young and impressionable when I saw the Poseidon Adventure, and I remember him hanging from that wheel, and his hands were like on fire, and he was trying to open something so everybody could escape, and that stayed with me. It was a great role for Gene Hackman. He played a priest. Keep those texts coming. Our question tonight is, what is your favorite Gene Hackman movie? Pretty straightforward. Let us know at 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Always good when you guys participate. Right now, I am very excited to welcome my next guest. He is a writer who has written for Key and Peele, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV, and he's agreed to make our popcorn pick of the week. He's a sketch comedy legend, and he joins us here on the stream. Rich Tallarico. Hey, buddy.
Yo, Mr. Pete, it's so good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for agreeing to come back. I get very few repeat customers, so you're on the list, and it feels good to see you again.
My pleasure, sir.
Yeah. So let's start with the popcorn pick of the week. Let's ask you. I want to ask you, how do you prefer to watch movies, Rich? Do you like to be in a crowded theater, an empty theater, in the comfort of your own home? What's your approach?
Well, that's such a good question, Pete, and I'm so happy to chime in. I think there's, a couple of ways. I mean, I remember seeing Pulp Fiction in October of 1994 when it came out, with a packed theater and, maybe 200 people in Chicago, and everybody was all still geared up from Reservoir Dogs, and the music started and the Band Apart logo came on the screen. It was just so electric. And the scenes, were knocking us out. The adrenaline scene and just everything was incredible. So, that might be my number one, in the theater experience. Yeah. But generally, that doesn't happen that much anymore. And I'm not a big, Marvel person. No offense to anybody that is, but it doesn't really, get me going as much. So I have a projector that I use at home that, creates
sweet.
Yes, you get the blackout curtains going, and you make your popcorn. I do like to get immersed in the movie. I don't like, checking my phone during it. I want to just, watch a great film. And I spent a lot of time on Criterion Channel in the last few years, catching up on a lot of the classics that I hadn't seen. And there's still so many more to see, but
same. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I'm the same way. Like, even with Gene Hackman, I'm realizing, like, I've seen all his big hits, but there's so much of his work I still haven't seen either. And if I went to Criterion, it'd be the same situation. And I want to share a story with you, speaking of Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
I was working the road doing stand-up, and I was in Indianapolis when that came out. And the other comic and I went to see it. His name is Mike Lazinski, and there's like 8 people in the theater. It's the middle of the afternoon. And the film goes non-linear. After Travolta gets blown away, I don't know if you remember that, he comes back, and all of a sudden he's got the gun, he's still in the shorts.
Right.
And we had seen that he died. There was this guy sitting a couple rows away from us, and he goes, "What the? Wait a minute. What's going on?" He's saying this for the whole theater, Rich. I'm like, dude. Like, he thought they made an editing mistake or something, and the print went out. It's like, come on, trust these guys. Well, yeah, it's Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I went to the bathroom during Interstellar, and I came back. Everybody in the theater was 7 years older. So I get it when you're confused at the movies. I get it.
Hang on to your youth, buddy. That's great. So all right, Rich, what's your favorite snack whether you're at the theater or at home. And I'm with you. I like to watch a movie, and I watch it at home, but I'm like you. I'll play video poker, or I'll check for texts or whatever. But what do you like to eat? Like, what's your favorite movie snack?
I'm going to be uncontroversial here, but I like to make popcorn on the stove. I like to burn it a little bit, maybe with a root beer, and probably, something sweet to go after it. But, the mistake I make in the theater is I buy like the super big popcorn because I think I'm going to, need it for 3 hours straight. And, after you get like halfway down one of those big buckets, it's a different product. Right? It's just like tiny crumbles. It's all cold. It's like, what happened to, where's the butter? Where's the heat? So it's always, I got to remind myself when I go to the regular movies to get, but I have a friend, by the way, she brings like a charcuterie board to the movies.
To the movies?
Yes. Like she'll
go
to like, the grocery store and buy one of those things with like, 100 pepperonis and cheese and crackers. And I'm like, that's actually a great way to do it. And so that might be my next time. But I haven't been to the actual physical movies in a while. That's because of the restraining order, though.
Well, I was going to ask you how you snuck a charcuterie board in because he's sneaking a soda in, but the restraining order is a more interesting question. So
you have to pretend you're an artist and have like a fake portfolio or something.
Yeah. All right, I think we're ready, Conrad. Drum roll, please. We're ready to get our guest, Rich Tallarico's popcorn pick of the week. It is coming up after this. Mr. Tallarico, your popcorn pick of the week.
We talked about a couple of possibilities, but there's a movie that I want to say because I think a lot of people might not have seen it. So can I throw out one that maybe we hadn't talked about before?
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to pick Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole.
Oh, right.
Which is a Kirk Douglas movie, and he plays this kind of down and out reporter from like the big city. I think he's from New York or something, and he winds up in some small dusty town, and out in the Southwest, and he just is just getting any job he can get. And he starts at the bottom at this kind of tiny paper, but then there's a person that gets caught in a cave-in at one of the local caves, and he starts filing stories about this, and it becomes this kind of big story for him. And he's selling all kinds of stories to the big paper now. And there's this kind of questionable thing where he doesn't necessarily, and the local town is also profiting off of the hoopla of rescuing the guy, that maybe they don't rescue them as fast as they could. And, maybe they're trying not to rescue him that quickly because they're enjoying the benefits of the carnival that's created by his being stuck. And it's one of these great movies, too, where there's not really a bad guy. He's kind of the good guy and the bad guy. So I really love that movie. I know it's not going to be one that everybody knows, but it was such a delight to me. And I got on a Billy Wilder kick after that. So
I haven't seen that. I love when people recommend films I haven't seen. Billy Wilder, of course, who did, I love the movie Sunset Boulevard. So I'll have to check this out. That's great. That's a great pick. Did you say you had another one too, Rich?
Well, if I had another pick.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said you were deciding between two, but that's fine. That's
no, sure. No, I think let's let that stand. I mean, I also love the films of John Huston, and Treasure of the Sierra Madre is maybe my favorite John Huston. Yeah. Come on. I mean, I want to live in that movie.
Dude, I have been on such a film noir kick lately.
I love it.
I'm just devouring them, and they're so great. And I saw Sierra Madre probably a couple years ago after not having seen it for like 30 years. So that's a phenomenal movie.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very cool. Well, this is so much fun having you here. My guest is Rich Tallarico. He has written for Key and Peele, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV, Sketchpad, a comedy show that didn't get much pub, but I really enjoyed Sketchpad. I saw several episodes.
Yeah, no, I think one of the inaugural episodes of that. It was an HBO thing, and I think it was the guy that went on to produce Everybody Loves Raymond, like before he did that. And they had in the versions that I did, I think might have been like the pilot of it. They had different comedy groups from all over, so it was like the Groundlings and Second City and stuff like that. Nice. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you told me earlier, Rich, that you had the opportunity to meet Gene Hackman in Santa Fe in the 90s.
Yes.
Please tell us about that.
I will. And rest in peace, Gene. I mean, I don't want to spoil your next guest and go into all of his great films, but there's so many. But, between Hoosiers and Mississippi Burning, and what's the one he did with Melanie Griffith? It was her first movie. I'm forgetting the name of it. But anyway, big, huge, obvious impression. So it was 1996, speaking of Second City, and we were touring. We were in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it was right around the time, or maybe it was even 97, early 97, 96, something like that. But the Second City actor, Severin Darden, who was in some of the Planet of the Apes stuff and had just been, a great creator at Second City and one of the founders. His widow came to see us. He had just passed away. So we're all, after the show, we all go out in the audience. We're all fawning over the widow Darden. We're like, oh, gosh, Severin Darden meant so much to us and this and that. And then the stage manager comes over and whispers that Gene Hackman is backstage. And we left the poor widow Darden in a cloud of dust.
Probably would have understood.
Yeah, I was like, sorry. And we went backstage, and I remember looking into Gene's eyes when we met him, and his eyes were this just so powerful blue. And he was so, I don't really get starstruck, and I've worked with a lot of people from SNL and stuff like that, but I was totally starstruck. This was Lex Luthor, standing right in front of me. And he was very complimentary. And then a Second City guy named Aaron Rhodes, who lived in New Mexico at the time, was friends with Gene. Because Gene was, not pretentious. He would take pottery classes and be involved in Santa Fe life. So, Aaron Rhodes walked backstage because, he went with Gene or whatever. And he's just like, hey, Gene, how you doing? It was just very casual. So very down-to-earth guy. And, I know he had 20 years of retirement. And I got to say, I'm so concerned over these circumstances of his death. I hope that gets looked into. I just felt like, the news wasn't really asking a lot of questions. So
right. I don't know what happened either, but it seems like it has to be that, right? That they found them in different rooms in kind of strange circumstances. Like, I think the wife was in the bathroom next to a heating duct, and he was in, I forget, I read about it this morning, but I'm like, this is so odd. And why would anybody want to bump off a 95-year-old Hollywood legend? I hope there's nothing like that behind this. But the film you were talking about, Rich, was Night Moves.
Yes. That's a kind of a modern noir, and he plays a detective. And
I have not seen that. I'm going to put that on my list. I might watch that tonight, actually.
He's very good. He just does from 0 to 100 really well. When he gets explosive, it's very powerful. So
boy, that's a great point. It's nice to hear he was down to earth too. Was he at your show?
Yeah, he came to see the show, but he just lived in Santa Fe and he loved it, and he was involved in the community and he did things. Like I said, I think he was in a pottery class with this guy, Aaron, who we knew from Second City.
Yeah.
So,
that's fantastic. Do you have a favorite film?
Of Gene's?
Yeah.
If I had to pick right now without really doing a deep dive, I would probably have to say Mississippi Burning.
Yeah.
Because the scene, there's so many satisfying scenes where he's beating up these racists and and trapping them the way he traps them. I thought, and no spoilers, but I thought that was so clever and just really well done. And I loved Willem Dafoe in that movie too.
Yeah.
Terrific.
That scene between the two of them where they come out and they're arguing because Francis McDormand had just been beaten up by one of the racist guys. And they kind of fight, and you think Gene Hackman is this big tough guy, and he is. And then Dafoe does this move and gets Hackman down and pulls a gun on him.
Yes.
And he's like, not only do I have the right, I have the authority to do this stuff. And it's just such a phenomenal scene between two great actors. But I'm with you. That's my favorite Hackman film.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that, all scenes are like power grabs. And that movie definitely has tons of that energy all throughout it.
And the film, or in the film too, there's the great, I think he's a DePaul grad, Michael Rooker.
Sure.
Who plays the main kind of red guy. He was great too, and Hackman and him had a great scene, so that's a great choice. But
how much time do we have? Can I tell you quickly one more thing?
We have a lot of time. Yeah, we're going to do a quick break.
Do it.
How are we doing on? Are we okay here? We got about a minute till a break, and then we'll come back and we'll have some more time. Rich, you're diamond the dance floor, buddy.
Okay, thanks.
All right, very cool. So we're talking with Rich Tallarico is here. We're going to talk about. I can't wait to ask you about Rachel Dratch, Rich. That I am such a fan of hers, and we, if we can, I'd love to play the Black Ice sketch. Very funny. Love that.
Oh, sure.
Get your take on that as well. Rich has he started screenwriting, doing stand-up. We got a lot to talk about, and he's here with us on the stream. Rob Thomas drops by at 7:35. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
The talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
Ready.
While the teams get ready to choose their top draft pick, you can help Mino and the Mayor choose their top craft pick.
Northeast Wisconsin is home to amazing breweries, wineries, cideries, and distilleries, and we need your help picking the best.
We've drafted 10 of our favorites, but which local craft beverage creator will go to number 1? That's up to you. Top craft pick creators include Fifth Ward Brewing Company in Oshkosh, New Denmark Brewing, Duck Creek Distillery and Winery in Denmark, and Captain's Walk Winery in Green Bay. Vote for your favorite now by logging on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick. When you vote, you'll enter a random drawing to win $250 in gift cards from participating craft creators. Don't wait. Voting ends Friday, April 18th. Log on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick and vote right now. Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick, drafting Northeast Wisconsin's finest one sip at a time.
I'm Earl Ingram, host of The Earl Ingram Show. We're celebrating Black History Month by sharing some powerful interviews and stories featuring Wisconsin's own trailblazers. We're also listening to you because conversations can make a difference.
It's got to be had, and we have to have it on a regular basis, not only on the air, but around the coffee table. I was more optimistic before than I am now. America's taken a big backward step.
I do try to have that conversation about racial disparity and give small history lessons as much as I can.
Join us to continue the conversations as we stand together and learn together. And let's celebrate Black History Month every month. I'm Earl Ingram.
The Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio.
Hi, this is Jenny Slate, and you are listening to Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Gonna be some sweet sounds coming down on the night shift. I bet you're singing proud.
Welcome back. My guest is Rich Tallarico. Rich is a legendary sketch writer of Key and Peele, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV. He's an actor, Second City alum, and it's always great to have him on the show. Rich, in our exchange earlier, well, you wanted to say something before the break, so go ahead. Maybe it's the same thing.
Well, probably, maybe. Maybe not, though. But I was just reminded because when Michael Rooker came up, and this, this was just something kind of fun that, one of my first experiences in Chicago. And, you're so nice to say legendary because you and Dwayne Kennedy and Mike Lucas, you guys were the legendary comics of Chicago, when I got there. And so one of my first experiences in Chicago, after I quit my day job and I didn't have the job at Second City, I got a job being a stand-in on a horror movie called Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Part 2. Okay, so this was part 2. This was part 2. So Michael Rooker was the star of part 1, and part 2, the star was a guy named Neil Giuntoli, who was in Shawshank Redemption, probably most famously as one of the dudes in the group of guys, And he was the star. He was playing Henry in the sequel, and at that point, I never even saw the first Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which I do not recommend. It's extremely brutal. It's like Clockwork Orange, but kind of worse. It's very, very heavy. So anyway,
Clockwork Orange look whimsical.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes Clockwork Orange look like Red Lobster. I mean, it is just. But so we're on this movie, and I was standing in, and the stand-in is basically you dress like the other actor, and you're there for the lighting. Basically, they light the shot with the stand-in. So I was standing in for a guy named Rich Kominick, and my friend Neil McNamara, who you might know, an improv guy, was standing. Well, Chicago Neil McNamara. I mean, there's probably a million guys that sound like Neil McNamara, but Neil's terrific. He was standing in for Neil Giantoli. So it was Neil and Rich and Neil and Rich. And we were dressed like these two guys. And we would just improvise lines and make the crew laugh. So the mood on this horror movie was so light because Neil and I were just breaking up the whole time. Like they had a severed head scene. So we were like doing bits with the head. And I felt bad for the director because there were so many times he would like rip off his headphones because we'd have everybody in stitches. He'd be like, doesn't it ever stop? So we had a very light, levity filled, and we also gained a ton of weight because all we did was eat craft services. We would just stand around and eat and just do the lighting shots. But I had a lot of fun. And it's really where I kind of fell in love with filmmaking. You're just watching a group of people work together and get it done. I was really kind of, romanced by that whole experience for sure.
That's so great. I have it's this kind of a Michael Rooker story. I made this film called The Godfather of Green Bay. And we had Patrick Warburton was scheduled to be the title character, and he had to bail because Lauren Holly was in the film too, and she changed her dates, and we kept Lauren. So we were scrambling to find a Godfather of Green Bay, Big Jake Norquist, and the producer hands me the phone. He goes, Michael Rooker wants to be in the film. I'm like, okay, that'd be great. He's a really scary dude when he wants to be. Yes. So I'm talking to him, and he wanted to be a different role where the guy was 25 years younger.
Oh, wow.
My age. And I was like, I'm like on the phone with this guy who I really admire. And I'm like, well, you can tell by my reaction. He just kind of bailed on the whole conversation. He's like, I got to pick up my kid at football practice, but let's keep talking. I was like, okay. And he hung up and I never talked to him again.
Wow.
But
it's interesting.
A really good actor.
Interesting. Like, how do you handle that? Do you just say, okay, let's make it work? I mean, you were right,
Yeah, it would not have worked, and that
Sure.
kind of sucked, because you got to tell this guy. It's like, oh man, I really like you, but I don't even know if you read the script based on what you're saying.
Right.
So, Rich, you talked about Rachel Dratch. You guys both were part of the Andy Richter podcast. This just sounded like such a fun thing. I love Rachel Dratch. Debbie Downer is one of my all-time favorite SNL characters. Tell us what happened. You said you were given a film to novel project where the actor reads a novelization.
Yeah.
And you did Dirty Dancing with Rachel Dratch. Did I get that right?
Yeah. The project is called The Novelizers, and I think they're in their third season. And I believe Rachel and my episode will kick off the new season, which I think is going to be March 10th.
Nice.
And it's Andy Richter's deal. And basically they they take a screenplay and they chop it up into, several parts, and they hand off parts to different writers who literally write a novelization as if it were, obviously a book. And then, different actors read those chapters. So I partnered with Rachel because Rachel and I had worked together at Second City in Chicago. And we also worked together at SNL. So I, worked with her a few times. And I will say, and I think other people have backed me up on this, that Rachel was so funny at Second City. Like, people would be pounding the tables, pounding the stage. I mean, we all got good laughs, but she would just destroy. And she really knew how to, hold the crowd in the palm of her hand. And just truly one of the great comic people of our time. So I'm so glad I get to work with her. And this should be a really fun thing. And it kind of ties into our movie night, too, because basically I novelized Dirty Dancing. And it's kind of fun because you basically just do, a Mad Magazine version of Dirty Dancing.
Oh, very nice. Andy Richter is an interesting guy. He's kind of a comedy legend, isn't he? But he was like a sidekick to Conan. I don't know. He kind of fascinates me. But hey, Rich, can we keep you for a few extra minutes after this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, fantastic. We're going to talk about. We got a lot to get to. Key and Peele. We should just make this a mini series. I think Rich will be here.
Sure, I'm down. I love Civic Media.
Thank you, buddy. We'll be right back after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed. I'm Pete Schwaba. Great to have you with me on this Thursday night edition of Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
And it comes as no surprise to me with another guy. Here comes my baby.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Lean Local with Jim Schmidt.
The Green Bay Correctional Institute. Discussions with Village President Jim Rafter and Prison Guard Joe Vertigan.
Sunday afternoons at 1 on 97.9 WGBW and the Civic Media app. The Todd Alba Show.
Think about how many people in our communities, our friends, our families, our neighbors, our postal workers, carriers, people that work at our Veterans Affairs hospitals, USDA. Here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump's lieutenant, thinks of all the people I just mentioned.
Federal employees do not deserve their jobs.
That's what Donald Trump and MAGA believe if you are a federal worker.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app. This is 97.9 WGBW Denmark, Green Bay's real news and great conversation, a Civic Media radio station.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. The mass firings of probationary employees in federal agencies are likely unlawful, says a federal judge in San Francisco, saying the Office of Personnel Management has no authority. The judge ordered the head of personnel to testify in court in 2 weeks. After meeting with the British Prime Minister at the White House talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, President Trump was asked if he supports Article 5 of NATO, that an attack on one member is an attack on all.
I support it. I don't think we're going to have any reason for it. I think we're going to have a very successful peace, and I think it's going to be a long-lasting peace, and I think it's going to happen hopefully quickly.
An investigation in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where Gene Hackman and his wife were found dead inside their home along with one of their 3 dogs yesterday. The sheriff says there are no signs of foul play. Pope Francis still improving from double pneumonia, says the Vatican. This is ABC News.
Picture waking up to stunning waterfront views on Lake Michigan with private beach access right outside your door. Can you see it? Make it a reality and book a vacation rental in Door County, Wisconsin and discover a world of natural beauty and relaxation. Explore charming small towns full of arts, shopping, and history. Head out for boating, kayaking, and hiking in scenic parks or stop and sip local wines at Door County's best wineries and breweries. What kind of trip are you planning? Find your perfect Door County getaway today at simpleliferentals.com.
Appleton Cigar Company on College Avenue has been serving the community for over 25 years. If you are a cigar aficionado looking for a one-of-a-kind experience, you need to check out Appleton Cigar, which boasts the largest selection of cigars north of Milwaukee with over 706 cigars to choose from in a walk-in humidor. The Cigar Lounge offers an impressive variety of spirits and cocktails that pair perfectly with a premium cigar. For the full experience, come to Appleton Cigar at 415 College Ave, Monday through Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. For more information, go to appletoncigar.com.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin is calling on the United States Department of Agriculture to resume distributing Dairy Business Innovation Initiative payments. In a letter to Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, Senator Baldwin said funding appropriated for the program in 2023 has not been reimbursed, leaving 88 dairy businesses without a total of $6.5 million that had been promised. She also warned that many of those smaller dairy businesses cannot afford the disruptions to that funding while trying to remain competitive. An Oshkosh police officer will not face criminal charges for fatally shooting a stabbing suspect. The Winnebago County Assistant District Attorney Tracy Pater wrote that the use of deadly force was justified. On December 10th, officers responded to a stabbing call on West 10th Avenue. There they found a young woman with multiple stab wounds. They also found the suspect, identified as Delvion Fairman, wielding what was described as a large machete. Officers fired 2 shots as Fairman continued to advance on them. A second stabbing victim was later found in the basement bathroom. The DCI investigation suggests Fairman was under the...
It's the Bucks and the Nuggets. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks at home tonight against the Denver Nuggets. The Bucks' Damian Lillard on why he thinks he's not getting more shots from the free throw line.
I feel like it's just been inconsistent. I think it's been a lack of understanding on how I'm being fouled. A lot of times guys will hook the defender's arm and then jump or whatever. But I just feel like I'm paying attention to how they're defending me in screens. They're fighting over. It's hard to stop on the dime, and I'm stopping on the dime, shooting the ball, knowing how out there pursuing me over ball screens. So it's a normal play.
Baseball manager Pat Murphy on Sirius XM radio asked what will it take to plate more runs if the Brewers don't spend more money in free agency.
If you don't have the budget to just go out and kind of just fill every hole, you're going to have to build from within or build from your trades or whatever. There's ways to disrupt the other team by having an offense that can beat you in many ways.
That's Brewers manager Pat Murphy with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news in depth. Find it in the news section at WGBW.FM.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Increasing clouds tonight, a low close to 30 and becoming breezy. Wind advisory for tomorrow, gusts higher than 40 miles an hour at times, maybe a rain or snow shower, highs upper 40s. Cooler weekend, mid-20s Saturday, mid-30s Sunday. Currently it's 37.
The Todd Alba Show.
Travi Olson joins us.
There's a hockey game tomorrow night between Canada and the U.S. Everywhere up in Canada when they were playing the game, the U.S. was being booed. Imagine how you would feel if your neighbor were constantly saying, I'm taking your backyard. You would find that very serious. That's what's happening around the world. We are going to have no friends, period.
That is
and
so
that
well put.
matters.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We gotta make moves and make them early. Set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up and stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things.
Start building your retirement plan at thisispretirement.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Rational Revolution with Mark Becker.
This week, and we ask the question, where is the GOP? And we ask it to former RNC Chairman Michael Steele.
Rational Revolution. Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who believes a penny saved isn't jack Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back. We are celebrating, we're celebrating comedy tonight, like we often do, and the life of Gene Hackman. Our question of the night is, what is your favorite Gene Hackman movie? Let us know at 855-752-4842, or you can text us through the app or on the stream. Just text us, folks. There are no wrong answers. Right now, joining me on the stream is our friend Rich Tallarico. He is a writer who has written for such great, legendary sketch shows as Saturday Night Live, Mad TV, and, of course, Key and Peele. Rich, remind us, if you would, you had the honor of having a sketch, a classic sketch you wrote, one of the best ever from Key and Peele, The Substitute Teacher, be recognized and part of the Smithsonian. I think you talked about that a little bit the last time you were here. Can you remind us what exactly happened and how that happened?
Yeah, well, there's an exhibit called, I think, Entertainment Nation, and it was installed in the Smithsonian Institution's American History Museum something, and it was put in there last year, and the exhibit will be there for 20 years. And as part of this exhibit, which covers different media, it also covers sports and entertainment, the Entertainment Nation. And one of the pieces was the Key and Peele sketch, Substitute Teacher, which I was responsible for. That came from a story about my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Chudy. And Mr. Chudy was ready to retire, and he had to do roll call. And we had complicated names in our class. We had a girl named Lori Babiars. We had a girl named Olga Plachotnik. And we had a guy named Chester Dobrinsky. So there was some alphabet soup going on. So Mr. Chudy would look at the roll, and he would see the name. He wouldn't even really try. Like, he'd see the name Babiars, and he'd look down and he'd look up and he'd go, Babish. And then the girl would raise her hand and go, here? I think you mean me. And then he'd see Chester Dobrinsky and he'd go, Djinsky. And it was like close. Oh, very close. And he'd see Olga Plachotnik and his head would explode. But it's so funny because I'm friends with Olga still, and I see her on social media. And every time I tell this story, she's like, "Hey, somebody said you were telling this story again." But no, that's where that sketch comes from. And there was some improvisation on the set. I know between Keegan and D Nice, they did that whole back and forth thing was kind of improvised on the set. And but it's blown up, and people all over the world know it. And I've seen people keep sending me license plates. People are changing their license plates to Aaron and Jake Quellen and Balake.
That is so great. We have another, and how cool! Like, I mean, the Smithsonian.
It's amazing.
If you've ever had a doubt about your career choice, and I'm sure you have because you're masterful at it, but the Smithsonian, that pretty much.
No, I went down there last year, and it was incredible to walk through and to see it. It's just kind of playing with a few other clips that were in the same exhibit. But like every time it came on, you're just like, I can't believe this is here. Very cool.
It's amazing. Well, we have another sketch that we clipped, and we pared it down a little bit, and I'd like to play this and then get your reaction from it when we come back. It's about a minute and 20 seconds.
Of course.
Conrad, if you would, please.
Well, stay off the roads if you can, folks. Lots of reports of black ice.
Ooh, you gotta watch out for that dangerous black ice. It's transparent and sneaky. Hard to see black ice.
That's right, Marcy. Keep your loved ones safe and warn them to stay off the streets tonight because of menacing, life-robbing black ice.
Isaac.
We have Channel 17's field reporter Darren Hempner with more. Darren?
Yeah. I'm standing out here at historic Ramsey Hill where there are currently no cars on the street due to hazardous driving conditions.
Darren, are you talking about black ice?
That's right.
Ooh, Jesus. It's frightening just to even say black ice.
It's scary, tricky, ruthless stuff, that black ice. A perfectly safe neighborhood can be suddenly terrorized by the appearance of black ice.
Well, one must keep in mind that just because black ice looks different than white ice, it doesn't make it any more dangerous. Also, one must remember how hard it is for black ice to survive, what with the authorities trying to destroy it with the snow plows and the salt trucks. But black ice perseveres.
That's right, that's right. And as you can see right now, the city is being controlled by lots of oppressive white snow, making it hard for all people to advance. And we don't hear much news about that. Now, do we?
No, we do not.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Darren.
But let's be honest, black ice is the real menace. Last night, I was in a perfectly safe neighborhood walking away from an ATM machine when black ice just snuck up on me and practically robbed me of my balance.
Ouch. That sounds exactly like something black ice would do. Well, I just hope that folks watch out so the white snow doesn't blind them and keep them from seeing what's really going on.
That's black ice sketch from Key and Peele, written by our guest, Rich Tallarico. You have so many great sketches, and one we're not going to get to either, where you wrote the Obama sketch where he plays Obama, and he's going through the line addressing people from different races differently. So funny.
Thank you.
How did you come up with these, and what were those pitch sessions like where you're pitching these guys your sketches?
Well, thanks. A comedian just basically, as you know, the things come to you. You just live life and you wait for things to kind of tap you on the shoulder. And you try to be a good receiver. But I remember the Black Ice sketch came from, I was watching the Weather Channel, and they had some report about, black ice. But the way they were saying, they were like, black ice. Like they just were so threatening with it. And, you write it down, and I go, I think this could be something to where they're, and just basically the setup that happened. That sketch, by the way, the white folk presenters, the news presenters were Laird McIntosh from the Groundlings, who's terrific, and Art. He's so great. And Arden Mirren, who I actually met in 1993 in my Improv Olympic class in Chicago, my first Improv Olympic class in the spring of '93. Nice. So it was great to work with Arden again. But no, that's where that came from. And then, of course, it got heightened. And, I pitched the idea, and Key and Peele took to it pretty quickly. This is a sketch, though, I got to say, that has surprised all of us in that it's very popular. And I just didn't think it would be the didn't think it would connect as much as it did, but it really does connect to people. And you rewrite these things 6, 7, 8 times before it even goes to production, and then sometimes on the set, I know that Jordan, with the line where he goes, "Yeah," like that was improvised. That was not in the script, and I'd written a few versions of the script. So the good thing about Key and Peele is you're usually delighted if they do something that isn't in the script. It's usually for good reason. And I had one sketch which was this Severed Head Warriors sketch where basically this guy is like cuts off a head, like in Conan the Barbarian or something, and he yells and everybody cheers with him. And then he likes the fact that people yelled, so he's trying to get more reaction. So he puts the head on his shoulder. He starts to pretend he's got 2 heads, and then people are like, "Oh no, that's too much." He's like, "Okay, what do you think of this?" And then he puts it on a pair of sandals and walks the head around, and then people start to laugh again. So he's just trying to get. But basically, when they shot it, because I had written all this dialogue for the guy, "Okay, guys, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?" And he put the head on the shoulder. They cut all the dialogue and just did grunts. So as a writer. So he's like, So, but as a writer, you're delighted when you're like, hey, when do you ever say, I'm so glad they cut every word I wrote? Right. I'm so glad they just did grunts. Oh, and then the other one you asked about was, aside from Black Ops, the Obama greets.
Yeah, that's so funny.
It's funny. I just noticed them doing it. And Key and Peele had done another sketch about what you call code switching. Because you're different with different people, right? I'm different with my poker buddies than I am with my little nephews. I'm really mean and crude and rude with my little nephews, and I'm very polite with my poker buddies. No kidding. But they had another code switching sketch, and I think I was watching Obama greet different people, and of course we heightened it and exaggerated it. But in 2024, Obama greeted the USA basketball team and did that bit. He actually did that. He pretended to greet people differently based on their race. That's the Key and Peele filter that we were writing under, which was to look at the world in hopefully a post-racial world, which I don't know if we're ever going to be in. But, with Obama being the president, it was just this synergy of this show coming along, and Jordan also being able to do an incredible Obama impression.
Great stuff. I want to ask you something before we run out of time. You recently said you had a screenplay curated. Kind of a cool honor. What's that like, and what happens next with that?
Oh, thanks for asking, Pete. Well, basically, during the lockdown, I wrote a script called The Widow Daredevil, and it's based on the true story of Annie Edson Taylor, who at 63 was a failed charm school teacher, and she tried to reverse her fortunes by becoming a daredevil. And this is a true story, and her stunt was to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. She did it, she survived, and then there's this whole story that happens after she achieves the stunt. So I grew up in central New York, so I've always known her story, and I wrote this script. In 2020, the Beverly Hills Film Festival made it an official selection, which is just, a way to kind of put a laurel on it. And then this year I submitted it for the Gray List, which is a curated list of market-ready screenplays for writers 40 and up. And they put it in right at the top of their list, which is terrific. And, the hope is that I can connect with a producer or studio that wants to help me, take it to the screen. I'm also presently exploring some options of raising some money and just trying to do it independently. So if there's any, film lovers out there that want to invest, you can find me at richtellerico.com.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we should have a talk about that off the air. I would love to hear more and see what we can, maybe we can collaborate on something there. But we have about 1 minute left. Rich, and thank you again for your time.
Always, anytime.
Of all you've written for Saturday Night Live, Mad TV, and Key and Peele, you've obviously are known more probably for Key and Peele, but what was your best experience of those 3 shows?
Well, SNL was, right, if the New York Yankees call, you have to go. And they actually offered me a job in 1997 as a writer, and I didn't take it because I was really trying to be an actor. I was like, I don't want to be a writer, and it wasn't until I finished Second City, because I really wanted to finish Second City. And I went to Mad TV right after Second City. I did that for 3 seasons. And then I went to SNL for 2, and went back to Mad TV after that. And then I did the Tonight Show and then Key and Peele. But as far as, the experiences, the SNL experience was tops. I got some stuff on. I had some stuff with De Niro, with Janet Jackson, with Snoop Dogg, with Paul Giamatti. I had a lot of great times there, but it wasn't really my style because everything was to camera. Everybody talked to the camera. So that was a big shift. And when I got to Key and Peele, it was, actors performing scenes, which is really what I wanted to write for.
Rich, can you hang on 1 minute and I'll
Yeah,
let you
yeah.
finish that story. We got to do this is a very quick break. We're coming
You
right
got it.
back with Rich Tallarico. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
From Denmark to De Pere, this is 97.9 WGBW.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner. So he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. Vos está pronto. Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at babbel.com. BABBEL.com.
Hey, it's Amanda with another new Wisco 411, and the diverse and resilient Appleton Room to Be Safe is hosting a monthly drop-in night for LGBTQ plus adults, which will have social connection, fun, and resource sharing, and best of all, support. These meetings are available once a month from now through April. They are completely free and unstructured, so you can come when you want and leave when you want. If you're interested, go to WGBW.FM and click events to learn more.
The Todd Alba Show.
Elon Musk putting in so much money that it drowns out other people's voices to decide who our next Supreme Court justice is. Whether or not you're going to vote Republican or Democrat or Schimmel or Crawford, your voice is getting drowned out by Elon Musk, a guy who has no business in Wisconsin. And you don't think that Brad Schimmel is going to be in Elon Musk's pocket? It's going to affect us in Wisconsin.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Imagine home. The smell of coffee, the sound of a lawnmower, the sun's warmth on your face. Free to be yourself, surrounded by love that helps you grow. This is a place to call home. That's an American dream we all deserve. But in 50% of U.S. states, you could legally be denied housing if you are LGBTQ+. Get the facts.
There's a problem with feathers on bargain buildings, weights and pulleys.
Welcome back.
Feathers hit the ground.
Rob Thomas coming up in just a few minutes to talk about Gene Hackman, and we've got my favorite clip I'm going to play in just a minute here. Right now, we have Rich Tallarico on the line, who has been gracious enough to spend some time with us here tonight and hang around a little extra. Rich, you were talking about your most pleasurable experience when it came to all your awesome writing gigs at Key and Peele, Saturday Night Live, and Mad TV. Please continue.
Oh, thanks, Pete. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I went over time there.
No, that's okay. We have a system where the computer just takes over whether we want it to or not. So I didn't want you to get cut off. So
oh no, you're fine. No, you're good. If you want to make a week go by fast, you buy bananas. You want to make a evening go by fast, you do one of these. So. Yeah, but at SNL, I wrote the Super Bowl Shuffle sketch for Tom Brady. I had a couple of scenes with De Niro. So, just going out and being in the city and, basically you have the keys to the city and the show spoils its people and they're very good to you. So, that was an incredible thing. And Mad TV was so laid back and I loved, basically just living in my a t-shirt and shorts and, being in Hollywood, every day and writing comedy and going out to lunch and hanging out. And we just had so much fun. There's a lot of laughter and silliness. The office at Mad TV was very silly. We had ping pong tables and, staying late and having a lot of fun together. So, all of it's incredible. And, I'm in a chapter now where I'm doing more teaching and I'm trying to write more screenplays. I'm trying to get my screenplays sold. But, spending your 30s, in these writers' rooms is certainly the way to go. I would highly recommend.
Well, next time you're here, buddy, we'll get more into the screenplays, and I know you're doing
Sure.
stand-up too. We can talk about that next time too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
let's do this again soon. Thank you,
You
so
got
much
it.
again, Rich. You're always so much fun, buddy. Continue.
My
success.
pleasure. Thank you.
All
You
right.
too, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, my friend. That's Rich
All right.
Tallarico. Just Google Key and Peele, Rich Tallarico. All his sketches come up. They're so great and very talented writer. Always fun when Rich is on the show. So in just a few minutes, Rob Thomas will be here. And last night on the show, Jamie McShane was here, a good friend of mine who's in the show 1923. And I asked him who his influences were, and this is what he said just last night. A character, maybe a famous character or a type of role that you haven't played yet that you would love to do.
I love period pieces. If I could, I would love to play Gene Hackman's son.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that has been my dream. Unfortunately, Gene doesn't act anymore.
Right.
I would absolutely love that.
Who are your influences? Like when you decided, I think I can do this, who did you want to emulate?
Hackman was a huge influence when I was growing up.
Wow, that was incredible. That was just last night. And then I wake up this morning to the news that Gene Hackman had passed away at 95 years old. So the circumstances, we don't know the full extent yet, but either way, it's a loss, even though he was 95. And it appears that the way he went, too, is kind of peculiar, and hopefully they'll get that worked out. But just last night, another great actor, Jamie McShane, who his resume is incredible. It just shows you the reach or the influence of Gene Hackman, such a great actor. We have a scene here. Do we have time to play this from Mississippi Burning? Okay, this is one of my favorite scenes between two great actors, Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe, Appleton's own, Wisconsin's own Willem Dafoe. They're arguing about how to get these racist bad guys after one of them just beat up his wife, played by Frances McDormand, who Gene Hackman has some affection for. And this is the argument between these two great actors.
Mr. Anderson, stop! Mr. Anderson! What the hell? I'm telling you to stop, and I mean it. We're not killers. That's the difference between them and us.
That's the difference between them and you.
You're not any more like them than I am.
Wrong. What do you care what I do with some hiding behind a sheriff's badge? Don't you have the whole world to change?
That's right, and I'm changing it.
Oh, you're just as arrogant as you are stupid.
You're changing it, too.
I damn well gonna make some changes right now.
Don't be so stupid. Don't go messing this up just because you're partial to fooling around with witnesses.
You! Oh, come on. Oh. It don't mean I have a gun unless you're ready to use it.
I'll kill you right now if you don't listen to what I have to tell you. Let me go. Let me go. We'll go after all of them. Together.
You wouldn't know how.
You're gonna teach me how.
You don't have the guts.
Not only do I have the guts, I have the authority.
What is that supposed to mean?
New rules. We nail them any way we can, even your way.
Is this you talking or some guy pulling your strings, huh?
Both.
We do it my way.
Your way.
With my people.
Whatever it takes. Okay. Give me a minute.
You think he would have shot me?
Oh, yes, sir.
He's a ballsy little bastard, isn't he?
I mean, that's one of my favorite, not only Gene Hackman scenes, but my favorite scenes in the history of movies. Two guys at the height of their career, both badass roles. And if you haven't seen Mississippi Burning, I highly recommend it. There's so many Gene Hackman films you could see. The Conversation, Mississippi Burning, The French Connection. Some people say The Royal Tenenbaums, Hoosiers, the list goes on and on. Steady Eddie texts us. Our question tonight is, what was your favorite Gene Hackman film? And Steady Eddie says, Pete, favorite Gene Hackman movie? Gotta be Hoosiers. A few of your listeners probably know this, but I've heard, not sure if it's true, that a young athletic Pete Schwaba has a cameo appearance in Hoosiers in a scene where a guy makes a spectacular slam dunk at the Indiana State Tournament. Pete was the hapless defender under the basket who got posterized. Great acting, Mr. Schwaba. I think you should have at least been nominated. The Academy robbed you, man. It's a wonderful, charming, inspiring, sweet chocolate and caramel chewy film. Wow, look at Steady Eddie go, Conrad. He's on fire tonight. He says, that's right, Pete. Hoosiers is my Milk Duds pick of the week. I give it 4.5 chewy chocolate Milk Duds. That's so disgusting. Thank you, Steady Eddie. Great stuff. All right. In just a few minutes, Rob Thomas will be here. Rob was just here last night, but, you know, in the events that unfolded since his last appearance and Jamie McShane's last appearance, which we just heard a clip from that, we figured we had to have Rob back on to help us break down some of this news about Gene Hackman and talk a little bit about his career. It's the least we could do after he's given us so much. And we'll do that next. Rob Thomas coming up. Great to have you with me on this Thursday night on Night Light with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Now falling asleep, and she's calling a cab while he's having a smoke, and she's taking a drag. Now they're going to bed, and my stomach is sick, and it's all in my head, but she's touching his chest. Now he takes off her dress. Now let me go.
Listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. This week is Public Schools Week. Civic Media's Joanne Krulatz explains why it comes at a pivotal time for Wisconsin.
Public schools are the foundation of communities and provide every child, regardless of their background or circumstances, the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. State School Superintendent Dr. Jill Underly says this is a pivotal moment for public schools where the actions we take now will determine the future of our children and the strength of our communities. Wisconsin schools have faced the challenge of underfunding and insufficient resources. The public education system has been under financial pressure, impacting the learning environment for every student and teacher. This struggle is felt in every corner of Wisconsin. The chronic underfunding of education in the state has reached a critical point, and it's time for change, according to Underly. Governor Tony Evers' recent budget proposal incorporates many of Underly's recommendations and allocates more than $3 billion for public schools and libraries. This investment is aimed at areas such as mental health, food security, and expanded academic opportunities. Underly says by prioritizing mental health services, schools can provide students with the support to navigate the challenges they face. Addressing food insecurity and providing universal free meals to students ensures that no child is learning on an empty stomach. Increasing the special education reimbursement rate and boosting funding for academic programs allows for more resources, specialized teachers, and enrichment opportunities. She adds that passing this budget proposal is a positive step, but it must be recognized that it's only the start of addressing the challenges schools are facing.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The legendary Gene Hackman has passed away at the age of 95. If you haven't already heard, Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, a classically trained pianist, and the couple's dog were found in their New Mexico home. Authorities say they had been dead for a while. Hackman was the star of films like The French Connection, The Poseidon Adventure, Mississippi Burning, The Conversation, and Hoosiers. The late great Hackman moved to Pasadena, California in 1952 after he got out of the Marines and met Dustin Hoffman at the Pasadena Playhouse, where both were voted least likely to succeed. Seems like a pretty cruel award to give to another adult. Despite not having leading man looks, Hackman says he never cared about that and just wanted to act in any capacity. Hackman retired from acting in 2004 and moved to New Mexico, where he became involved in the arts community and wrote books. Gene Hackman is quite often referred to as the greatest American actor. He won Oscars for his role in The French Connection and Unforgiven. Gene Hackman was 95. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Increasing clouds tonight, a low close to 30 and becoming breezy. Wind advisory for tomorrow, gusts higher than 40 miles an hour at times, maybe a rain or snow shower, highs upper 40s. Cooler weekend, mid-20s Saturday, mid-30s Sunday. Currently it's 37.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who show up each day and help it thrive. During Black History Month and year-round, AARP recognizes the everyday excellence of those who give back to their Wisconsin communities. They believe when efforts drive change for the greater good, everyone thrives together. Connect and learn what AARP is doing locally and how they can make the communities better for all ages. Visit aarp.org/WI. Paid for by AARP.
The 2025 draft is almost here, bringing in guests from around the world for this once-in-a-lifetime event. Enjoy ultra-high-end luxury with Simple Life Hospitality's NFL Draft Homes. Available to fit all budgets. Experience hospitality at its finest with concierge services like private chefs, transportation, grocery delivery, and daily excursions. Doing a corporate retreat? Have your company host a party at a draft home in walking distance to Lambeau. Visit SimpleLifeRentals.com and make the most of this unforgettable event.
About half of us will experience a mental health concern at some point.
Welcome back. Tomorrow night on Night Light, it is a bar band Friday night. We will find new music thanks to our friend and co-host of Max Inc. Radio, Terry Barr, who drops by every Friday night. Director Anders Lindwall will be here tomorrow night at 7:05 to talk about the success of his film Green and Gold and tell you where you can see it in the weeks to come. I think it has one more week in the theaters. We'll talk to Anders about that tomorrow night. And comedian James Connolly helps us kick things off tomorrow night at 6:35. I would like to thank on short notice. All right, many of you might remember this next guest from last night. He is becoming a series regular here on Nightlight, and he joins us now to talk about the legendary Gene Hackman, and it's Rob Thomas, Madison film critic and editor of the CityCast Madison newsletter. Rob, how are you?
I'm good, Pete. How are you?
Good. Long time, buddy. We got to catch up. And yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on short notice. But man, that was big news last night. I had actor Jamie McShane on, and I asked him who his influences were, and he immediately brought up Gene Hackman. So to get that news this morning was just insane. And you know, not. I mean, he's 95. But it's a surprise the way he went. Like, you make it to 95, and then I guess they're saying it might be carbon monoxide or something.
Yeah, it's very strange. And then I read some other, I don't want to get into too much, but there were a lot of other strange things, like the dog was dead too. Yeah, so
yeah.
And he had been retired for 20 years. Like he made so many movies and then stopped in 2004 with this movie called Welcome to Mooseport, which was not a good movie. He knew it was time to get out, and I respect that. You know, and
didn't he share the screen with was it Ray Romano who was in that film?
Yeah. I actually think Ray Romano's turned into a really good actor, but it was just not I remember seeing it, and it was not a good movie, not a good use of either of them, and
right.
You can understand why Gene Hackman was like, well, maybe I'll go write Western novels and hang out in New Mexico instead of doing this stuff.
Yeah. Well, he's such an interesting guy, Rob. What can you tell us about like his background and anything you might know, and maybe we can have a conversation about that and then talk about some of his movies.
Yeah, you know, I always thought he was a Midwestern guy. I know Danville, Illinois really claimed him, but actually I guess he was born in California and then moved around the Midwest as he was younger. And Danville was the one I think that he maybe felt closest to and would come back for, like, you know, city festivals and things like that. And then like in the 50s and 60s, he was sort of a journeyman actor. He roomed with Dustin Hoffman. That's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Known, and would do theater, would do TV. Apparently he auditioned to play Mike Brady on the Brady Bunch, but got beat up by Robert Reed. I would love to see that. I would love to see that version of the Brady Bunch.
Oh my gosh.
Much more intense, maybe.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then his big breakthrough was with Bonnie and Clyde in 1967, where he got his first of two Oscars. And then it was really off to the races for the next 40 years. I mean, an incredible career. So many great movies, so many great performances. Sometimes in movies that didn't live up to them, and like he could play anything. He could play, the kindest hero, like in Hoosiers. He
Yeah.
could play the worst villain, like in like The Quick and the Dead, and then just play every note on the spectrum in between those two.
That's so funny you mentioned the
It
quick.
always felt so real.
Yeah, yeah. My friend Scott Clace, who's also an actor, I saw a post he just did on Facebook saying he could always be Hackman. And I used to think that wasn't really a compliment. Like I always felt Chevy Chase was just Chevy Chase. But Gene Hackman, was Gene Hackman. He brought himself to those roles and made them better. And I think that's the difference. So, just a phenomenal. But what a life! Like, where are these guys? You don't see, so many Hollywood actors of a different generation, and it's probably indicative of just how things are now. They did military service. Like he's got service medals from the Navy and the Marines, and and then he just decides he wants to act. It's just crazy. I love that somebody told him, "You don't have a face for a leading man," and he didn't care. He's like, "I just want to act. I don't really care."
Right, right, and took and obviously became a leading man in so many great movies, but also took big parts and small parts right up until the very him and Young Frankenstein. That is one of the funniest.
I gotta rewatch that. Yeah.
Oh God, where he comes up to Frankenstein. He's the blind man who Frankenstein visits, and Frankenstein. It's such a great scene. I was going to make espresso. I actually don't think of Hackman as generally very funny in movies, but he's so funny in that movie.
But if you're a great actor, you can be funny if you're using the material in front of you, and that's what he was so great at.
Yeah. He wasn't trying to play funny; he was trying to play real, and then that made it funnier. Yeah.
So he got a nomination for Bonnie and Clyde. He also won an Oscar for was it the conversation? No, French Connection, right? I believe.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. I said he was nominated 5 times, one for French Connection, and then definitely for Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's got like 4 or 5 other nominations. He won 3 Golden Globes, 2 BAFTAs. That's a lot of hardware. Where do you? Well, I'll ask you that in a minute. I want to talk about something else, Rob. I thought this was fascinating. Like you mentioned it, Dustin Hoffman. The two of them started acting. They went to the Pasadena Playhouse. Both of them were voted least likely to succeed. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, they had good faces for radio, as they say, and they had to probably work harder to get on screen and to be. But the flip side of that was they were so memorable on screen because, Hackman looked like a guy who had dirt under his fingernails.
Right.
I think even in the '60s, you didn't see that many guys like that. There's still a lot of pretty boys in movies and stuff, and he just made every part really indelible. And my favorite movie of his was probably The Conversation, which is the Francis Ford Coppola one that he made between Godfather and Godfather 2. And but there's just so many. Like I was thinking, I want to watch Gene Hackman movies this weekend, but where do you start? Like he's got so many good movies.
Well, and not only that, like I was looking at the list. I'm looking at it right now. There's so many I haven't seen. Like I've seen a lot of them. I've seen all of his big ones, but and it's interesting what you said about or what we were just talking about, the leading man thing. He doesn't look like Brad Pitt or Warren Beatty back in his day, but
right?
There are some people who are such good actors, you cannot not make them leading men, and I think that's a tribute to his acting ability.
And I think something that audiences responded to, I know. Dads really responded to him in the way they probably did not to Warren Beatty when they saw him in a movie like Hoosiers or The Conversation, or and then a lot of young actors, as you said, look up to him and look to him as inspiration. I think we talked about that Jude Law movie, The Order.
Oh yeah,
and Jude Law straight up said, "I was doing Gene Hackman in that movie." I was thinking about Gene Hackman and The French Connection, and And so he, even though I can't think of an actor right now who came from the same place, I think he inspired a lot of what we call character actors today.
Yeah.
Especially the ones who kind of move from the supporting roles into the main roles, but somehow keep that character actor flavor when they do it.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. Where do you? Here's another tidbit I thought that was funny. He and Dustin Hoffman, friends. He followed, I think, Hoffman back to, pardon me, back to New York, and they became friends with Robert Duvall, who I always thought was like very similar to Gene Hackman. They both had kind of this tough guy persona, but could be very subtle and nuanced in their performances too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Gene Hackman, he was a tough guy. And if a director or another actor wasn't pulling their weight, he was not shy about telling them. Like, I guess I was watching an interview with Bill Murray today. I guess Gene Hackman really put Wes Anderson through the ringer making the Royal Tenenbaums. Like, Ed Anderson was pretty young, and Gene Hackman really gave him a lot of guff on the set. But they sort of found their way through to, I think, one of his best performances and a great movie. So he pushed people for sure,
right?
But it generally seemed to work out if the other people were kind of up for it.
Yeah, it's funny. I forget he was in Tannenbaums. Like, I saw Royal Tenenbaums and just once, but it was so long ago. But a lot of people are mentioning that as one of his best performances. And you just reminded me of, I think it was Rushmore Bill Murray was in with Wes Anderson. I think that was the first time. Well, it was the first time he was in a Wes Anderson film. And Wes Anderson, talk about challenging a young director. Wes Anderson suggested something, and Bill Murray just looked at him and said, "That would be the obvious choice." Rob, where do you rank Gene Hackman in terms of, it's impossible to say who the best actor is, but do you put him top 5, top 10? Where do you rank him?
I would say top 5 for sure of my lifetime, for sure, because like I said, it was such a long career, and he did so many different things within it, while still having a certain like you said, inner, honesty, I guess you'd say, when he was on screen. Like, he was always drawing from something authentic, even if, and it was funny. I kind of wonder if other people had the same thing, whereas you heard he died, like one movie just popped into your head immediately. That was, and for me, even though it's not my favorite movie, for me, it was Crimson Tide, the Denzel Washington, because that to me was like the quintessential Gene Hackman performance, where he's like, it's a good movie, but he's great in it. Like, he is doing everything he can to make it as the best that it can be.
You could say that about a lot of films he did, though, even in Behind Enemy Lines or Enemy of the State, like The Firm.
Heist.
He plays these great Heist. Like, he's just so good at. But here's the thing too about Gene Hackman. Like, the first thing I did after I got some of my work done this morning was I put in The French Connection, and I just wanted to see as much of it as I could before I came in today. Hackman is a guy who jumps off the screen. He's got such undeniable charisma and panache, whatever you want to call it. He just is so authentic and so charismatic, to the point where Roy Scheider, who's also a great actor, kind of gets dwarfed. Like, the first half hour of that movie, Hackman's in this guy's face and he's pointing and he knows when to snarl, and like, he's just so natural. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that character has rough edges that, like, if it was a Warren Beatty or something, I don't think they would have. But it makes it such a compelling character. Like I said, he's not quite, the white-hatted hero. He's a little darker and more interesting than that, and then you just can't take your eyes off him.
Right. Yeah, well said. Where do you, let's talk. Do you have I asked you, I don't know if you saw my text. I was thinking we could do like a top 5 list. I would love to know what your top 5, or at least the first ones that come to mind, Gene Hackman films are.
Yeah, just top of my head, I would say Conversation, number 1, and that's the one that's a little underseen, but he has the lead role in it. I would highly recommend that one. French Connection, number 2, Unforgiven, number 3, Royal Tenenbaums, number 4, and probably Hoosiers, number 5, I think.
Nice.
How about yourself?
I mean, it's hard to argue. Those are all phenomenal. I would say my one for him, and a part of it is I just like the role too, but Mississippi Burning. Yeah, and then I would say probably The Conversation. French Connection would be my number 3. And then I had kind of a tie between Bonnie and Clyde and Hoosiers. But you mentioned The Quick and the Dead earlier, and he was such a great bad guy in that.
Yeah.
And he was a great bad guy in No Way Out, too. I really, getting that fifth film, I would probably have to say, I'd say it's probably a tie between The Quick and the Dead and Poseidon Adventure.
I've never seen Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Is he good in that? Does he?
Yeah, he's kind of a leader, and he does this this great scene where he's trying to open a hatch or something. Hey, Rob, can we let's do a really quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap this up, right? And I'll tell
Sounds
you my
good.
favorite scene from Poseidon Adventure. Rob Thomas is here. We're talking Gene Hackman as Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Until I meet the dog, Mrs. Princess, who often wonder what makes her work. I guess I'll leave that question to the experts. Assuming that there are some out there, they're probably alone, solitaire. I can remember when I caught up with a pastime intimate friend. She said, but you're probably gonna say I look lovely, but you probably don't think nothing of me.
From Ashwaubenon to Alloway, this is 97.9 WGBW.
Ready?
While the teams get ready to choose their top draft pick, you can help Mino and the Mayor choose their top craft pick.
Northeast Wisconsin is home to amazing breweries, wineries, cideries, and distilleries, and we need your help picking the best.
We've drafted 10 of our favorites, but which local craft beverage creator will go to number 1? That's up to you. Top craft pick creators include Kerrigan Brothers Winery in Kaukauna, Stillmank Brewing Company in Green Bay, Old Station 31 Spirits in Dale, and Old Bavarian Brewing Company in Appleton. Vote for your favorite now by logging on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick. When you vote, you'll enter a random drawing to win $250 in gift cards from participating craft creators. Don't wait. Voting ends Friday, April 18th. Log on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick and vote right now. Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick, drafting Northeast Wisconsin's finest one sip at a time.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596 or visit www.kw.
Welcome back. We are talking, I'm talking with Rob Thomas, Madison-based film critic and CityCast Madison newsletter editor. We're talking about the legacy of Gene Hackman and just why we are both sort of so in awe of him. Rob, I was telling you before the break about the scene in Poseidon Adventure that stuck with me. It was one of the first probably impactful scenes I watched as a kid, and he was kind of leading people through the boat, trying to get them to safety. He plays a priest. And, but he was kind of that Hackman tough guy priest. I knew a couple of those when I was younger too, but he was hanging onto this big, huge dial trying to open a hatch for everybody. And the thing was piping hot and he's hanging. He knows he's going to die. And he's turning the thing with his hands, which are basically burning off from steam. And, it's just so dramatic. And then I think he just drops down, if I remember correctly, and dies. But I was like, that was incredible as a kid, to see something like that.
Yeah, he could play like I think he was a very grounded actor, but he could play big scenes as well. Like, did you see French Connection 2?
You know what? I feel like I did, but I don't remember anything about it.
not as good as the first, but
Yeah.
it still has moments. And one, he goes to France after the drug dealers, and he gets hooked on heroin against his will, and there's a scene where he gets off it. He sort of goes cold turkey, and it's really good. And it's like really like he really goes for it in a way you usually don't see him, because he's usually such a tough guy. And so he knew how to use that. I think sometimes, because he was such a tough guy, to be maybe more vulnerable on screen than another actor might let themselves do.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right. So just to recap, your list is number 1 is Conversation. Number 2 was French Connection.
Yep.
3 was Unforgiven. 4 was Tannenbaums. And what was your number 5?
Hoosiers.
Hoosiers. That's right. All right. So if you're listening, folks, this is from a bona fide, awesome, genuine film critic. Check out those 5 films that Rob would recommend that Gene Hackman stars in. My list was Mississippi Burning, then The Conversation, and I'm lost here. Okay, and then I had The French Connection, and then I think I have a tie between The Poseidon Adventure, just because of probably that one scene, but how it affected me, and maybe The Quick and the Dead, I'd probably say. So all great
fun
films.
movie.
Yeah, all good stuff. So, all right. Well, thanks for that, Rob. You told me you have Patton Oswalt tickets. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of another giant in his own field or genre, that's kind of cool.
He's playing at the Comedy Club in Madison, which is really
comedy on stage.
Yeah, isn't that great? Like all weekend. Yeah, he's so it's pretty great to see him up close.
I thought I saw him like 2 years ago that he was playing the Orpheum.
Yeah, but the last couple of times through town, he's played the club, and I think I've seen a lot of big name comics doing that. I think they just like the room. Maybe he's trying out new stuff. He's not ready to take to the big stage. I don't know, but I'm excited.
That's fascinating. Yeah, he was. He and I were both in Jimmy Pardo's wedding party years ago. I don't know him well at all, but he was very funny at the roast. We all roasted Pardo, and Patton had some really good. He kept calling him Johnny Pardo. So very funny guy, and boy, what an acting career he's carved out for himself. I remember the first thing I think I saw him in was Justified, where he played like a local constable, and he had a go bag, and he was just funny, but a really good actor too.
Yeah, he's really good, and I mean, I would say it's Gene Hackman level. He knows how to use his looks. I think, in really interesting ways on screen.
Yeah. Are you covering him, or are you seeing him just for fun?
Just for fun. As soon as I saw he was coming, and I think it was. Yeah, I definitely wanted to go see him, especially in a comedy club environment.
That's excellent. Anything you could recommend, Rob? Have you binge watched anything?
I'm way behind on shows. There's a movie opening tomorrow called Last Breath, and I wrote.
Oh yeah.
Like it feels like kind of a Gene Hackman type movie from the '90s. It's based on a true story about this diver who gets kind of stuck at the bottom of the ocean with only a few minutes of oxygen.
Yeah.
Like it's an incredible true story, told very grounded, sort of like I described like Apollo 13 on the bottom of the ocean. And so I really recommend that one this weekend.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Well, last night you were on the show. We talked Oscars. I did see Nickel Boys last night, but let's save that. Next time you're on, we got to dive into those films as well, and we'll recap all that.
We'll know how the Oscars were. Right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, buddy. Well, thank you for jumping on short notice. Happy Gene Hackman Day. What a legacy. And now go get some laughs tonight. That sounds like fun.
There you go. Thanks, Pete.
All right, you got it, Rob. That's Rob Thomas. Check out his work at CityCast Madison. He's the newsletter editor and great critic there in Madison. So where do you rank Gene Hackman, Conrad, on a scale of how many Gene Hackman films? I think you told me this earlier, but what?
I think out of the list I looked at, I've only seen Hoosiers.
Hoosiers?
But I've seen that like a billion times.
So you've seen many Gene Hackman movies.
Just one.
I'm kind of envious. You got a lot of cool films to catch up on if you so choose. So tomorrow night on Nightlight, as I mentioned, this is great. We have Anders Lindwall is going to pop by and just kind of give us an update on how his film is doing. It's having a very nice theatrical run here in Wisconsin and soon to be available on streaming platforms, but we'll try to get some information about that tomorrow night. And he'll talk about where you can see the film, I guess, for one more week. They keep extending it because it's doing well. So we'll talk about that tomorrow night with Anders Lindwall. It's a bar band Friday night. Terry Bauer will be here. And comedian James Connolly, who is headlining an event for the Fox Valley Veterans Council. He's a comedian and former Marine. He'll be here tomorrow night to talk about that event as well. So a jam-packed show tomorrow night. Thanks so much, everybody. And my thanks to Rich Tallarico, Rob Thomas, and all of your texts on behalf of the lovable producer, Conrad. Good night, Wisconsin.
Take me to your